Hello everyone, welcome in, welcome in. Today I have a very special guest. I am talking with Pia, also known as Dutch Oven Girl, and this is a special episode. First of all, because I haven't put out an episode interviewing someone in a very, very long time, or an episode for that matter, but we're not going to talk about that. But also because Pia is going to become a recurrent guest on this show. So more than a guest, she is also going to be a little bit of a co-host at some points in different episodes on this podcast. For now, get to know her, get to know Dutch Oven Girl. We talked about a lot of things from books to immigration to the creative process and what fuels it, and of course about her project, Dutch Oven Girl. Have a listen. This is A Story of Sorts, the podcast mostly about bookish stuff. And I am your host, Karina Pereira. Pia, welcome!
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. Please tell us about yourself.
Hi. Thank you, first of all, so much for having me on. I know everyone probably says this, but I was really flattered to be invited on.
Literally nobody told me that ever.
Well,
not
I
flattered. Only just like happy. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very glad you asked me, but never flattered. That's like high level.
No, I am.
Thank you.
I am really, because I mean, maybe this would be better saved for the end, but I actually like, and I can talk about that a bit more, but I really admire like the work you do. And I think it's so cool. And I'm so happy to be part of it. Like for the first time, maybe not the last. We'll
Thank
see.
you. No, of course not. I mean, so I already explained that Pia is going to become a recurrent guest on the show. So she is going to come back to do like a podcast with me once in a while, and we are going. And that's why I explained last podcast. My podcast motto, like the tagline, is the podcast mostly about bookish stuff, and that's because I don't want to constrict myself about the things that I want to do and that I can do with the podcast. So this is it's great because then we can talk about cultural differences and experiences. So I'm very excited about that. So yeah, but tell us about yourself. Who is Pia? Who is Pia?
So yeah, I'm Bia or Beatriz if you're my parents or something, and or my boss. I'm 28.
So young.
I live a young summer child, and yeah, I'm Portuguese like Karina. I'm from Lisbon, so a bit more down south, and that's where I grew up. And I've been living in the Netherlands for the past, almost 6 years now. It's crazy.
Oh, me
crazy to
too.
think.
I think we moved in the same year, right? 2019?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. But for me, the 2019, 2020, those are kind of like, that was like my buffer year because I was studying. And I feel like, when you're studying abroad, it doesn't really feel like you've really moved there, because at the time I wasn't sure if I was going to stay.
Of course.
So it was a very I was in a academic bubble, so to speak. And then actually I decided to stay in the Netherlands in late 2020, early 2021. So technically that would be more accurate to describe how long I've been here for. And yeah, I love writing. I love reading as well. I think not as much as Karina, but I'll try to keep up.
I don't know. This year I haven't been reading that much, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, if we are comparing love for books, I don't know, because I cannot compare my love for books with the love of other people for books. If we're comparing about quantity, this year is going very slow for me. I used to read like a lot of books a year, and this year and last year was like, it's still quite a lot, I think. But yeah, I'm not up to snuff, as they say. Do they say this? Maybe they don't say that. Anyway.
But how many, I mean, it's not a competition, right? Like, I was even just about to ask you, okay, but how many books have you read this year? And I don't think that's the point, right?
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you can. It's funny because the other day on Substack, there was also the talk about it was actually not on Substack, sorry, it was on Threads. And I kind of regretted making the comment because I think it was misunderstood. And but basically someone said, well, I went to this book talk thing book event, not a talk, but book event, and someone said that I write more than some people who consider themselves writers, and I don't consider myself writer. But I think she was mentioning that in the sense of like, that's not what she does. She's a podcast host. But then I did comment, oh, it's not about how much you write, it's about like how you see yourself as a writer or the writing you do. Because, for example, there's a Portuguese famous writer, and she writes a book, like she publishes every 4 years, I think. And she says, I don't write every day or every week or every month. Like when I have to write, when I want to write a book, when I have a story to tell, then I sit down and I write it. And then I wipe everything. So I just delete everything that I've written and I start again, which I was shocked by. But that's another story for another day. But I think, like, I don't think you can. And as I said, I did not comment on it as to go against the person, but it was more like a different perspective that was not asked for, actually. But I was just like, we're having a conversation here, I thought, but no. And I don't think you can measure your love for books by quantity. I think that's a mistake. But yeah. I do feel bad because there's so many books I want to read, and you don't have the time, and then when you're not making as much time to read, then you kind of feel like, oh, am I actually a reader anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you read like one book per year, you're a reader.
That's it, right? It should be as easy as that. Then it is as easy as that. But I think the more you're used to reading, the more you kind of push yourself down when you don't read as much as you used to. You know what I mean? It's the standards I put for myself. No. So yeah, but yeah, no. So you can say you're as much of a reader as me.
Yeah, reader, movie watcher. I'm like, I don't know. I like cooking as well. So those three things, I guess, are kind of like my focus now.
Your main hobbies.
And yeah, my main hobbies and passions, I'd say. But yeah, like I don't consider myself like, and I think that, like that would take the fun out of it to put that pressure on it. I don't consider myself like super prolific at anything, actually. And I can talk about that a bit more, but I've also, you actually wrote a really nice piece recently for your newsletter about like jobs and your like job history. And I really relate to that because I really do feel I'm meant to be like a jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah. I'm not like especially amazing at anything. And that's not me like being fake humble. It's just like, I don't want to be like a prodigy at anything. I just like dipping my toes in different things. And I guess that's kind of what this Dutch Oven Girl project is about in a way as well.
Yeah, because like you studied journalism and you have a master's in applied musicology, currently work in music-related marketing, and you have worked at a radio station back in Portugal, which was actually one of the reasons why you wanted to sit behind a microphone again. I would really like to talk about that experience, but since you spoke about your new project, I think I'm just gonna like do the leap there. So this year you started a new project, and it's called Dutch Oven Girl, which is a freaking hilarious name, but also so clever. Like, I love puns and I love people who do like connection with like words and concepts. And when I saw like Dutch Oven Girl, I was just like, I cracked that up. I immediately told Joris, it was my partner, and I was like, you just like, this is amazing. So I'd like for you to introduce the page, and I want to I would like you to talk about how it came to be, like how it came to be. How did the idea come to you? Like just the genesis of it.
Yeah, so I'll start with the name actually, because like it's so funny you should say that, because the reason why I decided to call it Dutch Oven Girl is because I started to get more into cooking, and so my Christmas present was actually a Dutch oven, which, if you don't know, is a really sort of like kitchen workhorse. It's like a great like cast iron pan that conducts heat really well, so it's really great for making like things that take a long time to cook, like stews or things of that nature. It can also go in the oven. You can make bread with it. It's a great like kitchen utensil in general. But it's so funny because I called it Dutch Oven Girl because I am not Dutch, but I do live in the Netherlands, so like I feel like I can half claim that title. And yeah, like the thing is called Dutch oven. And of course, not everything I cook is on there, but a lot of stuff, I use it a lot and I really cherish it. So I called it Dutch Oven Girl, but actually a friend of mine from Portugal, shout out Luis Marujo, a few weeks later, after I launched the page, she was like, "Oh, I love the page, but do you know what that means?" And this is the part where I will let listeners like Urban Dictionary it, because I'm not gonna say it here. But I was like, "Oh," and he was like, "This is actually like really commonly known, like the definition for Dutch oven."
I think
And I was like,
when I read the name, that's what I thought about. I know that there is a Dutch oven, like I know the plate, and I think I mean, we can talk about it, we can say it, but
yeah,
like,
it's just like farting.
Yeah, and then like covering the your partner with like the blanket you farted into, and then just basically kill them with a smell. But it was the first thing I thought about when I saw it, even though I know what a Dutch oven is. But that's why I thought it was hilarious, because it's not just like a name that it's clever because you're in the Netherlands, and it talks about, it starts always with food and then goes to other things, but also because it's a funny name, because people are going to read it and they're going to be like, this is hilarious.
I had no idea. I think
You didn't know?
should probably... No.
You didn't know? I'm sorry. I thought you knew. I thought it was on purpose because you wanted to be funny.
No, I had no clue. And actually, something about me is like, I hate like like fart humor so much. It like pisses me off whenever there's like a fart joke in a movie or a TV show. Like, I hate it. I do not find it. Like, I mean, I find it hilarious, like, now, because of, like, you know, it being, like, the name, like, of this project. But when my friend told me, I was so scared. I thought it was gonna be, like, way worse, to be honest.
So
when
funny.
I saw what it was,
this is hilarious.
I was like, oh, okay.
This is hilarious.
But yeah.
I thought you knew. I thought it was on purpose. I really did. This is
But
hilarious.
I think, like, my friend really knows me, because he was like, I don't think you know what it means.
He's just like,
because
no,
if you knew,
Bia wouldn't do that.
But now, you know, I'm ready. Like, I claim it.
You accept
it.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna. I thought you were gonna say, "Listen, I got this Dutch oven," and I thought, "Oh, this is perfect." And then it's also a funny thing because of the other, like the other definition of Dutch oven. So I decided to keep it. But no, you actually had no idea. That is hilarious.
I had no clue. But I think everyone else, I feel like like I just wasn't in on the joke, because I feel like everyone probably, like, I'm glad it's a positive thing, though. I'm glad people find it funny, but it was I cannot take credit for that. It was completely unintentional.
I think it makes it more interesting, a lot more interesting, because if it was like, it's like someone who has, I don't know, who is making camel toes and then calls it camel toe girl. You know
exactly. I mean, I don't know what a camel toe is.
You don't know? Okay, I'll
No. Besides that, I don't know what the double entendre could
That's
be.
what I'm gonna. That's why I started laughing. I'll tell you after, because you're gonna like. It's hilarious. It's funny. Okay. I'm gonna tell you. You're gonna be shocked. Anyway,
I'm so innocent.
but this is so funny, because, like I said, I did honestly think that it was, because if there was no other meaning for me, Dutch Oven Girl, since your page is not just about food, I think I would be like, oh, okay, it's Dutch oven because it's also Dutch and she's living in the Netherlands. But I think thinking that it is on purpose that you use that despite the meaning of, you know, the Dutch oven, like the Urban Dictionary meaning, that's what actually made the makes it like, I look at it and immediately I start laughing. I thought, this is so clever. And like I said, when I passed it on, I was like, this is so clever. She called herself Dutch Oven Girl. This is hilarious because it's food. But there's also another meaning. It's hilarious. It's really funny that you didn't know. That is really funny.
I mean, I'm glad it worked out.
Accidentally, but it did.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
But like, as in how it came about.
Yeah. I always like to know how people suddenly decided, oh, what if I created this page? What if I created this project? Like, how did that came to you? Do you remember?
Yeah. Actually, I think I thought about it for a really long time, because I can talk about this a little bit more later on, but I've always been like a really creative person. And that's not to say like, oh, I'm amazing. It's just like,
No.
because it's like I like to create stuff. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just like objectively, I always really enjoyed being a creative, and that took on like different forms and shapes. Like, I mean, I think writing has always been like the main one for me. And so I started like writing about music in my teens, and then when I went to college, I did a bit of radio in Coimbra, in RUC, Radio University of Coimbra, which was amazing, and I can talk about that more. But in any case, like, I think from the ages of like 0 to 22, 23, I was always doing something creative, like not necessarily like publicly, but at least for me, I was always creating. And after I like actually committed to being an immigrant, not an expat, an immigrant.
An immigrant.
That's very important for me to call myself that,
Same.
because that's what I am. But anyways.
And we have nothing against expats, but most of you are not expats, okay?
Yeah, and that's a whole other tangent. I just feel like people look at me, they see where I come from, they see the color of my skin, and they call me an expat. And I'm an immigrant, you know, like any other immigrant. And I even see, like, you know, with the whole hustling of living in the Netherlands, I've worked a lot of like, I mean, like yourself, I've worked across the board, you know, I've worked in like hospitality and the service industry. When I worked in those places, I was an immigrant. And when I worked in an office, I was an expat. And that distinction makes no sense to me. So immigrant. But when I decided to become an immigrant, as I'm sure you can relate, I think like the hustle of being an immigrant kind of like took over everything else. And although I do have like a lovely partner and lovely friends here in the Netherlands, it's not the same thing. Like, you don't have like that very established safety net to fall back on. So I think I was really caught up like the past like 5-ish years on just like getting by, job to job, apartment to apartment, just like, you know, making a living here. And unfortunately, sorry, what was that?
Settling down.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Settling down as possible as that is. Yeah. And I think because of that, like the creative outlets kind of took a backseat, unfortunately. And like recently I heard like someone talk about the distinction between rest and recharge. And at that point I was already doing Dutch Oven Girl, but like it really confirmed to me like how important it is for me to have like a creative outlet like this, because, you know, we all need to rest, we all need to sleep, we all need to sit on the couch and watch reality TV or whatever like your poison is. But we also need to recharge, and recharging is different. Recharging is like doing the things that actually like, you know, give you life. And for me, that's never been about work, honestly. It's always been about like these creative things I've always pursued on the side of school or work, like writing about music or radio back in Coimbra. And so it became like really, I think over the last year, I really started to be like, okay, I need to have a creative outlet to be happy. For a long time, I thought it had to be like this big thing. So like for the past 5 years, I've been kind of like torturing myself to write a novel, which is crazy. But then I realized, okay, but it doesn't have to be all that, you know, like I can start smaller. And the way that Dutch Oven Girl began, so I already knew I wanted to do something like this. And the good thing about social media is that nowadays you can just do it. Like you don't have to wait for someone to give you a platform or to hire you to write in their magazine or whatever. Like you can just get started whenever, wherever. So I knew I wanted to do something like that. And I knew I wanted to like do it on my own and have control over it and not put a lot of pressure on it. And at this point I had started getting into, I was watching a lot of like which is ironic because that's not the platform I use at all, but I was watching a lot of like cooking content on YouTube, and specifically like vegan cooking content. And I'm not like vegan. I try to eat like plant-based, but I'm not too strict about it. But I was just really struck by like the creativity and the artsmanship that goes
Yeah.
into it. I know maybe it sounds weird talking about like
No, because you need to have a lot. When you just have, I think, vegetables to work with and plant-based stuff, I think you need to be more creative because when you cook meat is a lot of it's a lot easier, I think, to just add some spices and the flavor is there. You know what I mean? When you have, and especially I think when you're used to eating meat and then you make the switch to vegetarian or vegan, it's very difficult to get the same flavors and to get the same satisfaction, I think, from food than you get when you get the meat. And I think at some point, of course, you manage that. Because I think there are when veggie dishes are done properly, I think they can be even better than meat for a lot of reasons, and not just like the animal welfare, welfare. Sorry, the animal welfare, and also for you because I think it can be healthier, but also the way that things taste. So you really have to learn to cook it properly to get those flavors without the meat.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms, but
and also, like there are people making mousse, like chocolate mousse from, like you did with the brownies, from the water of the chickpeas.
The
if that's
aquafaba,
if that's not creative, the way that people sometimes are also making like chocolate mousse from avocado. I mean, if that's not creative, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, and I think like watching those like content creators, Sarah's Vegan Kitchen, Rainbow Plant Life, all those vegan girlies on YouTube, and it made me realize that cooking can be like a creative medium as much as writing is, for instance. And I wouldn't consider myself like an amazing cook. I think I'm curious and I'm eager to learn. And the thing with food is like, unlike books and movies, you kind of have to do it every day just to survive.
Yes,
and
I know.
You can't always be bothered to be super creative.
I hate it. I don't like cooking. Like, I'm not a fan. I can cook.
Oh, okay.
And I can cook well, but I just don't like cooking. It's just like, no. I know. I do believe it can be a very creative outlet, even if you don't do just the vegan stuff, like I was saying, because you can make up stuff, like with cooking, and you gotta know what you're doing as well. It's
totally.
not, especially if you're doing new things, you can't just check like a tutorial to learn a new craft that exists. You have to go by your gut instinct and your knowledge of what works with what. But I don't like cooking, and I think it's because I have to make it every day as well. It's just like, oh no, like I love eating, but I have to make it.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely been a process for me, but just to like get back to like the genesis of Dutch Oven Girl, like I think, I just kind of started seeing like cooking through a different lens. I decided that I wanted to do something with cooking, and I already had, this inkling that I wanted to do something creative, but then I felt almost like a imposter syndrome. Like I was like, wait, what? I'm going to become like a food content creator? Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I'm not a better cook than anyone. I'm just like learning stuff like on YouTube and online, and then just like tinkering with it and making it up as I go. But I don't think I didn't feel qualified for that to be like my identity. So because I do have this thing that I like to be a jack of all trades, and it's difficult for me to like put myself in a square, in a box, I decided to do it about food, movies, and books. So that's the very convoluted explanation of how the project came to be. I started doing weekly posts, but I realized that was too much. Yeah. So now I'm doing bi-weekly, and what I try to do is I try to connect a dish. Every week I connect a dish to a movie, to a book. Of course, connecting the movie to a book is much easier because the mediums are so much more similar, and like sometimes with the dish it's a bit of a reach, and I think it will become more of a reach as time goes on. But yeah, that's essentially the elevator pitch, is just like what I'm eating, what I'm watching, and what I'm reading, just like recommendations across the board. And then I try to write like a little essay, kind of like combining all three.
Because you always put those three things, and I'm curious, is it like the meal that you made on that week that you choose? Now you're doing every other week, but do you make the meal on that during that week that you're posting the post, or do you have, because like for example you were sick a couple of weeks ago and you still had the post on Thursday, and I thought she cooked all this week to make it for the channel, or did you sometimes cook something and then you take a picture and you think, okay, I'm gonna add it to like a post? Because you know what I mean? Because I think it was like bacalhau com natas, which is cream cod, which is a very Portuguese thing. And for me it was very curious because I thought, but she was sick. Did she do it? Or do you take the time to also, okay, I want to talk about this book and I want to talk about this movie, and then I'm going to make that meal and then I'll publish it later? How do you do it? Because I can imagine if you also have, again, like you said, doing the movie and the book can be quite easy because the information is available there. But what about making the meal as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still figuring it out. I just started in like late February or something, so it's only been like a few months, and I'm still figuring it out, so much so that I'm changing the schedule because like what you said is true. It's like there's like two sides to it, right? It's like cooking the dish, but also taking a picture of the dish, which I didn't realize that would be one of the hardest parts.
Yeah, because I'm always thinking like if she's cooking dinner, because obviously she doesn't have like a lot of time to be making it during lunch. She either is doing this all like in the weekend and then preparing for the weeks ahead and doing more than one dish at a time, let's say, or like you have a weekend, you have 2 dishes, let's say, and you're always cooking for that, or you have to have like because let's face it, it's Instagram, so people kind of want to post like a pretty picture. Most of the times when I'm cooking or when I'm doing something, there's like, oh, I'm not going to open this right now. I'm going to leave it for tomorrow morning or for the weekend so that I can do an unboxing. Because I don't want I don't have lighting to make like professional content with any kind of lighting. You know what I mean? If it's day or not. So I'm kind of curious. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's a very like meta, no pun intended, conversation. But about like content creating, I guess, because like so far I was kind of doing the thing where I gave myself a week to first of all, decide on the 3 things I was going to post about. And as you mentioned, like the book and the movie, that's easy. And it's also easy to make a connection between the two. And I think
make
so
an
far
edit. I think, like, because I think you use maybe Canva or something to do an edit, so you can just get the poster. Because what are you going to do? You're not going to take a picture of yourself watching it.
Taking pictures of the movie like I'm at a concert.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's the easiest part, because you just do like a nice edit and you put the poster and it's done. It takes time as well, of course, but if you already have like, and I think you use always the same type of edit, let's say, with a font and etc. So it's easy. You just have to change the covers. So that's faster. I mean, it's still work. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's faster, right? But not with a picture.
It's incomparably faster. Sometimes I literally do that like while I'm watching like a TV show on my phone. So that's super easy. But like that's the easiest part. But then indeed, I have to decide like, okay, what do I want to cook? Then I have to make sure I cook it on a, like, for instance, it's much easier to take pictures during the day, as you know. So if I cook it for dinner, sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't working. I have to like redo it or plate it again some other time and take the picture. Just, I'm not like, I don't love like not super interested in like photography or taking pictures. So that one's kind of like a necessary evil for me.
To do
But
it during the day as well. So to do
yeah,
the meal during the
like
day so you can take a picture during, with good lighting.
yeah, and I'm not like super like actually like my partner was the one that like really helped me like take the first pictures because I'm just that's not my field of expertise whatsoever. I'm more of a writer than a photographer for sure. And yeah, and then there's actually the writing of the little essay that goes along with it. That's also something I have to take into account. So I think that's why I made it like bi-weekly because it was never meant to be like a grind, you know. It's just literally something I'm doing for fun and because I feel like it fills up my cup to do something creative and share it with people and talk about like three things that I love, which are cooking, movies, and books. And yeah, like the cooking part is actually the hardest, but it's interesting. It's like an interesting challenge because it's unlike anything I've done before. So yeah.
Because that's the thing, like when you see a post like that online, the one you're seeing it and you think, well, this is just, it's a short form text. But the work that goes through writing it, and sometimes you see a video that is like, I've been doing unboxing videos and I've been doing like some kind of like advertisement videos from some partnerships that I have. And the person sees like a 40-second video, but that thing maybe took me 1 hour just to edit, to cut all the parts that I wanted to cut. And I think that is the same with writing. You go over it and it's over and over again, and you write it first, then you edit it, then you read it again, then you edit again. And it takes a lot of time to write even just a short form content that you want to post online. And when you read something like that, when you read like a short post on Instagram, you just think, oh, this took 5 minutes to do because it took me 5 minutes to read. And it's not the truth. You go over the idea, you go over the writing, you edit it again. And it can take I used to write freelance, but it was for a website. And then at some point I actually started writing for other people. And I just realized that what I was charging for it would not compensate because I'm a very slow writer. And it would take me sometimes, 3 hours just to write and edit and have like a 1,000 or 500 word essay ready to go to my standards. So I think sometimes people just see a post like that and they don't see like how much work it goes into it. But then you kind of see, no, this is not going to work weekly, because it is a lot of work, especially in the taking the pictures, making the meal, which is also, takes time, and then you have to think about taking the picture and plating it a certain way, and then writing the essay bit as well.
And I don't even think I'm like operating like I could make it so much more like professional if I had more time, probably. And yeah, like what you're describing is exactly how I felt before. And I mean, I've personally never done it precisely because I think it takes so much work. But I really admire people that make video content because it takes so much work. And it's what you're saying, like you can watch like a reel or a TikTok that someone like some of the things people make are insane. Like people are so talented, like, and it takes so much work. And I feel like, not that I've done it myself, but like even just having like a sliver of a taste of like the work it can take, I really respect that.
Same. From, like I said, from the small videos I have done, it's just like it's always so much work. Like the same with the color. I was making coloring videos, and it's, oh my god, it's so much editing for people to have like a 2-minute video of me just coloring a book. It's really a lot, and people are doing insane things on Instagram. There's like really professional as well, and you're just like, wow, okay. It's like if you have a certain amount of views and you're getting partnerships that is actually paying you to do that, okay, but as a hobby, it's so time consuming, and at some point you don't want it to feel like work. You still want it to feel like a creativity outlet. And I'm, even with newsletters, if I get to the point where I think, oh, this is not sustainable for me anymore as a hobby, I think we just we give ourselves such high standards for things that we're doing for fun that nobody is paying us for. Because it's like, oh, now I want to post every week. And if you fail, you feel bad because you didn't make it. And it's like, this is a hobby. Why are you being so harsh on yourself with this?
Yeah.
You know?
And then you just,
It's just like, I want consistency because I know that people like consistency. And then in the end, you're just like, why am I doing this really? Is it for myself or for others? Because for me, at least, I always feel like I ended up kind of doing it for others in some way. Even when I'm doing it myself. I cannot, there are people who post and it's like, oh, I don't care. I just post it. And sometimes I'm just trying, oh, what if I posted this hour? Will it work better? And I'm like, why am I doing this? If I'm doing it for fun, why am I thinking about the people that I'm gonna attract to it? And I think it's almost like a flaw of living your life and sharing your things online. It's very fast because, as you said, it's direct. You don't need to have anyone else telling you that you can do it or not. You can just do it. You can go straight in. But then on the other side, because things are public, you always feel like a pressure to show it to people and to have that direct feedback as well. You know what I mean? Because if nobody sees it, you're going to be upset. You're going to feel sad about it. You're going to think that your content isn't good. And before the internet, we were just doing things for ourselves. Like, I wrote full novels when I was like 15, 16.
Oh, wow.
And I thought maybe I will want to publish it someday, but it's like a long-term thing. It's not something that is direct and I'm sharing to people. I'm like telling people, and then people are immediately giving me their feedback by liking or not liking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And nowadays it's very difficult because, again, I love sharing things with as many people as possible. But then on the other hand, you have that. It's just like, I'm doing this for myself, but I'm also putting some pressure on myself.
It's very like Foucault, like you're in like a prison of your own making, like you're constantly being perceived, but you're also constantly
wanting to
perceiving
be
yourself being perceived.
Yeah, but also wanting,
like a mirror facing, two mirrors facing one another. Yeah.
And it's kind of, like I said, like the creative process is quite interesting these days. Of course, some people do things for themselves, but I always feel like I have a new hobby. I want to share it because I want people to see it.
And there's always like the capitalist thing of like, you have to, as soon as you get a hobby, it's like, okay, how are you going to make that profitable?
Yeah. Am I gonna... Yeah, and that kind of kills us. Like, especially hobbies, manual hobbies, like embroideries and stuff like that. Like, then it's no fun anymore. Because you want to do the things you want to do, not the things people want you to do for you to sell.
Yes, and that's on Marxist alienation theory.
Yeah.
But like, I mean... For me personally, at least for now, I think I've been able to be conscientious of keeping it fun because my like MO is like, if it's not fun anymore, there's no point. And I also think like that can be taken like too far, because if you take all the pressure out of it, you just won't do it. Like, it's like with writing.
But that's the thing. Should you be doing it if you don't want to do it? Because that is
Not
always
if you
my
don't
question.
Want to do it, but me too. I also struggle with that. But to give you like a practical example, like when it comes to writing, it's like, for years and years and years, I was always like talking about how much I wanted to write, but then I would never do it. And
but that's what I'm saying. Like, do we really want to write, or do we actually just want to, like, let's say, publish a book? Or publish an essay because we're looking for someone else's approval of our words and how good we are or not. And that's where I kind of come across like a sort of thought process of, why do I do the things that I do? Because if I want to write because I want to write, then why am I not writing? If I have to put pressure on myself to write, then should I be writing, or should I just give up on writing until I feel like writing? Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, because that's something like I struggle a lot with understanding, like, with just the concept of discipline, because it's like, to what degree, like, do you apply, like, discipline to yourself for those things, right? Like, and it's also like the concept of...
With which purpose? Because, for example, maybe you want to go to the gym because you want to be healthier, and that's a discipline that you should put on yourself. Because, like I said, I have high cholesterol. I should be, like, doing at least, like, a little bit of sport every week. So that's something I should be doing for my own good if I want to, like, live longer. But when it comes to creative endeavors, and especially...
It's different, of course,
different. Yeah. And it's like, should I torment myself. For example, I just started, like yesterday, a friend taught me how to do like binding, book binding, right?
Nice.
Yeah, it was really cool. But then I was like, okay, if I don't feel like doing this, would I feel bad for not doing that? So why do I feel bad about writing? Like, what is it that I want to take from writing that is so much more important to me that I want to do it, even though I'm the main person taking something from it? You know what I mean? Because, okay, like what I was talking about, the gym, you're still the main person taking something from it, but you know that it's for your body's well-being. But do you need your writing, for example, for your mental well-being, or are you just doing it because you need some accolade? And if you need some accolade, why do you need that accolade? And why should it be with, you know what I mean? Are we all just trying to search for like fame, or are we
That
all
is so
you
deep.
know what I mean? I know it is deep, but like I really love writing, it is true, but sometimes it's also hard, and sometimes I think to myself, should I pursue it or should I just let it go? If sometimes it's so hard, why am I doing it? What's the point of it all? What do I want to get from it?
What's the point of life?
What
Why
is
are
the
we
point?
here? I think let's just, I don't know, looking at the state of the world, I think we should just like be happy and have fun.
Yeah,
That's
but,
it.
but
Just
it's
have
the
fun.
same. It's the same conversation with like books. Why are we pushing ourselves so hard to read a certain amount of books sometimes? For
Yeah.
what exactly? And why am I giving myself so much trouble for not reading as much as I used to? Why is this suddenly an issue to me that I'm reading fewer books like than I used to read a few years ago? You know what I mean? Like, why am I giving myself this? Yeah.
I also think in that regard, like the quantity over like quality. And I feel like with platforms like Goodreads, or to a certain extent, like in the case of movies, Letterboxd, you know, we're all like advertising our hobbies, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if you're not writing yourself, you are advertising, like, and defining yourself by like how much you read, for instance. And
Yeah.
like, that's something like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I have like a little reading goal on Goodreads every year, and I'm very happy if I make it, but I think like making hobbies competitive kind of takes the fun out of it. And like that's like the thing with like Dutch Oven Girl. At the end of the day, like I feel like so far I've been really trying to take all the pressure out from it. I mean, I have like 100 followers, so it's good that I don't like beat myself up about
But that's already pretty
being
good
successful.
for like, it's just a couple of months. So I think that's
Yeah,
already
and
pretty
I don't,
good.
it's really okay. Like I really don't care. It's something I'm mostly doing like, and yeah, I know what you said is true. Like people say this and it has a certain degree of BS, but like to be frank, I wouldn't say 100% because I don't think that's honest, but I am doing it a lot for myself. And I think when that percent, like when that shifts and like you start out doing something being like, okay, I'm doing this like 70% for me and 30% for my friends and family or for strangers on the internet. I feel like with anything in life, when one of the sides overtakes the other and then suddenly you're like, oh, I'm doing this only 5% for me. I mean, you have to take a step back. And that's why like I'm so happy that this isn't my job. Like I think
Yeah.
that's what allows me to do it so leisurely, and like I am doing it now, but if it stops being fun, I'm not going to do it anymore, because for stress and for obligations, I have my job.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like that's a part of life and I
Of
can live
course.
with that, but I don't want to make it like a job. And especially because I work in digital marketing, so I also have like the added like downside of like kind of like knowing how the sausage is made, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I know how like the algorithm works, I know all the tips and tricks too, but I kind of like keep that energy for my like 9 to 5, and
For the
then
thing
when
that
it comes to
pays you.
creating content, exactly, when it comes to creating content, yeah, exactly, like I'm not
You
getting
have to
paid for this, so
pay rent anyway, so you know.
let's all take a step back and let's relax. But I do think ultimately, like, it's back to the thing of like the recharging. Like, it does feel, besides like all the BS of like whether people like it or follow it or read it, like at the end of the day, even if like 5 people read it, I still think it would be a net positive for me, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's always how it's worked for me. Like, I mean, when I was doing radio, I don't know how many people were listening to my shows. Or when I was like writing about music, I don't know how many people were reading my reviews, but it made me happy, you
Yeah.
know? So with publishing on social media, maybe it's a little bit more obvious, I guess, to a certain extent. Like you see the number in
Yeah.
front of you and you get like little dopamine hit every time someone like likes it or comments. But I think you just have to like make, at least for me, like for my like mental health, I have to like force myself not to care about that part.
Yeah, I see. I also wanted to talk about the project that you started. Dutch Oven Girl has 3 pillars. So it's food, it's movies, and it's books. And I wanted to talk to you individually about that. Want to start with books, actually, in this case, because you already also talked about how you started. Because the 3 questions, and I can put them out there, is why did you choose these 3 pillars? And you already explained why you did it with the food, pretty much, I think. I don't know if you want to add anything to it, because we can start with that. But how did it start, for example, with the cinema? Like, why are these the 3 pillars? Why did you start with cinema as well?
So I've always I think I've always been interested. Food came a bit later, but I've always been interested in movies, music, and books. The all 3. But
The Holy
for
Trinity.
some reason, yeah, the Holy Trinity. But for some reason, music kind of took precedent. But it's really funny because if I had chosen my degree, my master's degree in another day, maybe I would have taken a master's in film studies or literature. And I've considered all 3. So the fact that I chose music and I work with music doesn't mean that music is the most important. It just happened to be the one I chose. But precisely because of like my work being so tied up to music and always having been mostly tied up with music, both when I was writing and on the radio, I really wanted to do something to do with these other 2 things that I really like, because I haven't had the opportunity hasn't presented itself as much to write about these 2 other things, and I felt like I had a lot to say about them. So cinema, like film, I think it really started online. I was very like a chronically online teenager, and I had a Tumblr, and that's where I started like seeing stills from like the Tumblr classics, like the Virgin Suicides and the Dreamers, and you know, all these like gateway drugs into like being interested in film. And I've always found film to be like such a rich and fascinating like medium for storytelling, just because it combines everything. You know, you have like writing in the scripts, you have moving images, you have music a lot of the times. And although I mostly was doing shows that had to do with music, I actually, one of my favorite things to do when I was in college radio, I joined our college radio's like movie program, in which we just talked about movies. And yeah, we just talked about movies basically. And each week we would watch something that was in theaters, and then we'd just have like a roundtable discussion about it. And I loved it. I realized I loved talking about it as much as or more than music, honestly. Frankly, I find it easier. And then I think just having a partner who is like a complete cinephile also made that really a big part of my life, and it's a big part of our relationship.
Because then you were doing
there's
it
this-
together. You had something to
Yeah.
share with each other.
Yeah. Like I think like in COVID, we even like recorded like a quote unquote podcast
Oh, really?
in which we were talking about movies and our favorite movies. It was really cute, but it never
took
saw the
off.
light of day.
Oh.
Because we just like, we can like yap about movies to each other and to who will hear us like forever. So, and I mean, going to the movies is just my favorite activity ever. I think there's like nothing more incredible than sitting in a dark room with a bunch of strangers, and for 2 hours you're just like in that moment, in that experience together, and then everyone goes home having shared that. And here in Rotterdam, where we both live, we have like a great cinema, which is Kino,
Yes, oh my
which
god,
is
love
my
Kino.
third place. Like I'm there every week.
And they also have a cafe.
And
It's amazing. You just go there, you wait for the person at the cafe, and it's like it feels like an indie house for film. It's really,
it's
really cool.
amazing. And the passion they have for cinema and in their cycles and the things they choose to program, it's really inspiring. And I was there yesterday, literally.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just love talking to friends and family about movies, so it made sense for that to be like, to make that one of the pillars of Dutch Oven Girl. Yeah.
I think the thing about cinema, I don't have always a lot of patience to watch movies at home anymore, which is weird because when I was in my early 20s, that's all I did in the weekend. I would go to Blockbuster still at the time, and that's how old I am. And although I must say I was going to Blockbuster when nobody was going to Blockbuster anymore, pretty much, and I would just rent like 2 movies to watch during the weekend. Sometimes I would watch both of them on the same day, and then I would have to go back on Sunday to get 2 more movies. And it was like, I don't know, it was such a part of my personality at the time as well. And it's kind of curious, like, how you get over some things that were like your whole life. You know what I mean? And I still really like cinema though. And going to the theater, for me, it's really an experience. Because when you come out of it, you are a little bit like drunk in my, like, I've never been drunk, so I cannot make that connection. Of course, it's not the same, but it's like you're in that movie as it, like that the theater in the dark for, like you said, 2 hours, and then you come out and suddenly it's like you've been inside one world and you're coming out of it again to your own world. And for me, I don't know, I always come out of the cinema a little bit more like in love with movies, and also like I've like the experience itself, just being there, changed me in some way, always a little bit. It's like suddenly you kind of wake up from a dream and okay, now I have to face reality again. I just love just going to the cinema. I wish I had more energy because I used to have like the Cineville pass, which is something, for those who do not know, in the Netherlands, basically you pay monthly and then you can just go to any movie anytime for free. And you pay like 22 something, almost 23 euros. And then you can watch how many movies, how many times a month as you want for free. And for a while I had that card, and I was going also to the cinema a lot. And it's such, I don't know, it's such a good experience. But it takes a lot of time because you gotta get ready, you gotta go to the cinema, then it's 2 hours there, then coming back home. So I stopped because of that. But I still just love the experience. I don't think there are many experiences that you can do also by yourself. There are as rewarding and as kind of magical as going to a movie theater to watch something.
Yeah, and I think there's something quite special about being alone with people. I don't know. I think that's like one of my favorite things to do, is just like sharing a moment with people, but we don't even have to like talk or interact. And I think like, and maybe that's a nice segue into books, because the thing I love so much about like film and literature, they're very different, obviously, because literature, it's also they're not the same thing at all. But you know, I feel like as someone who is in her head quite a lot, I really do feel like film and books and stories just kind of let you like escape your world a little bit. And it's what you're saying, like when you walk out of watching a movie, especially in theaters, but even if you're just like watching a movie at home and you're actually watching it, you're not on your phone, you're watching it. If you're actually watching the movie with your phone in another room, which I try to like most of the time, but I feel like it allows you to step into someone else's shoes, into someone else's reality. And I think that's why it's so important to consume, even if you don't create anything, just like I think everyone should consume fiction. And that's something like that I found that, and not to put like men on blast, like on your podcast, but
Oh
I
no,
think
please put
it
them
wouldn't
on
be the
blast.
first time, I'm sure.
No, go ahead.
I feel like there is something quite like, and this is not like a catch-all, obviously. Hashtag not all men. But I feel like
But always a man.
men, but somehow always a man. But I do feel like there is this like tendency that men don't consume fiction as much as women do.
But
And I've
I
actually
also
met
men in general don't consume what they consider women things, or things made for women, and the other way around. Women do consume a lot of things that is just made for men. But yeah. But I think
totally. But
men,
like,
they think, especially with books, they're just like, oh no, I don't read fiction. It's like, I just read nonfiction,
yes.
and they think they're better than anyone. But then
I mean, with books, it's a little bit.
There's like a male epidemic, and I'm doing like quotes in the air here. Because because you don't care about understanding women, but you do care about being with women. Maybe if you had more empathy, which you get from fiction, that would help you out. But carry on. Sorry.
No, to be honest, like that's exactly where I was going. I mean, the quote unquote male loneliness epidemic, like that's another.
It's like the stupidest word for something. You put yourself in there, and now you're blaming women. Get out of there. You're alone. Like, do you think women don't have an epidemic? Do you think women aren't lonely? We are. We just don't bitch about it and say that it's someone else's fault. We actually think it's our fault because we are not deserving of it. Like men, it's not a male epidemic. It's basically the consequences of your own actions. Deal with them. Change.
And I do, to be honest, like I do, just to like bring up another facet, I do think it's quite a complex issue, and I do think there is something to be said about the fact that not men, young boys, like that are in a developmental stage and that are children. So I think it's important to say it's not ever like a child's fault are being targeted, and then there it is 100% their fault and it's absolutely evil the way they are targeted by like a lot of like this like quote unquote like male influencers and are being completely exploited for the detriment of everyone, themselves
including themselves.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's true.
But anyways, I was gonna say like about like men and not even just men, but maybe like a certain type of person that I don't know. I remember one time like a guy telling me like, oh, I don't watch because I do think it applies to books certainly, but I feel also sometimes with movies because I have met like a guy that was like, well, I don't watch movies, I just watch documentaries because like what am I going to learn from watching a movie? And I think that's like such
so ridiculous.
It's such a sad way of looking at the world because I feel like I've learned so much from reading and from watching film because it's an amazing way to like it's kind of this magical thing where you can like live in someone else's shoes for a day. And with reading I think it's even, well, not more or less, it's different, but with reading I genuinely always, whenever I read a book, I feel like I'm reading the author's mind, and that's such like a unique experience and such a unique position to be in, you know, to be able to have access to someone else's like, and of course like you're never going to directly experience someone else's like struggle. For instance, if you're reading like, you know, a writer from like an oppressed minority, but just being able to, you know, really see things the way they see it. Like, I think it's like such a beautiful way to create empathy. So I feel like everyone should consume. Even saying consume feels like a dirty word, but like everyone should engage with fiction. And that's why I think films can be like quite powerful because I know not everyone's a reader, but I feel like you can also get that from film.
For sure.
You also see like the filmmaker's perspective, and I don't know, it's really interesting to me.
Yeah, because I also think like if men did care about reading more fiction written by women, I think they would understand women better. They are just not interested in women that way, a lot of them. You know what I mean? Because I think for us, we are taught from a young age to be empathetic in general.
Yeah, to a T.
We are required actually to be empathetic, and we already have that, and men don't, and then they also don't try to understand the way that women feel, and that's very complicated, because if you don't care about someone who is going to be your partner, and if you want a woman to be your partner, but you're right, that's a whole different story. But also in movies, like, they call it chick flicks, and then it's derogatory, but then you can have a movie like John Wick that I'm just watching now, actually. There's like pew pew, someone, like there's a woman who dies, because then there's an idea that comes from the woman dying that will make him kind of come back from the shadows and fight again. So she's used as a device to start with, but that's another conversation as well. But then it's like, I can enjoy a movie that is like made for men, but has no content in it for me to take a lot from. It's just a violent, funny movie, like for example, Fast and Furious. Just a funny movie. I like Fast and Furious. There's a lot of relationship things going on there, but in the end, it's just a funny adventure, movie, and it's fine. But then you have like a chick flick, which actually deals with a lot of women's issues and relationships and emotions. And men is like, oh, this has no value. It's just a chick flick. When a lot of the times you're actually dealing with a lot more emotional issues and like cultural issues, the expectations, what women go through, what the world wants women to want, and therefore they want it. That they just call it chick flicks, and they say, I'm not going to see that because it's empty content for me. I don't care. It's very curious. But yeah, no, we're not talking. Oh, sorry, we're not on a tangent about that anymore.
No, you're right. But just like to like a last note on that. Like in the world of cinema, I think something that's very interesting to note is the lack of female directors throughout history, and it's great that we start to see, like, I do feel like some of the most interesting and some of the most interesting and creative voices in cinema nowadays are actually coming from women. Like you have Caroline Farge, I think that's how you pronounce her name, with The Substance, which I think is like it's so important to have like women behind the camera telling women's stories, because a lot of these chick flicks are still written and directed by men.
Yeah, that is also true. That is also true. I love Past Lives, like Celine Song. She has such a beautiful way to tell a story. Like it's amazing, and the nuances of the story and the things that you tell. And again, even Past Lives could be considered a chick flick. It's a love triangle in some way, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's not in the tone of voice, because but what I'm saying, it's still very much about relationships between human beings and between women and men. But it's so much more, and it's a culture and language, and film. I mean, it's amazing, and she is doing a great job.
And I mean, like, it's a very different kind of film they make, but just Caroline or Julia Ducournau is a female director that I really have to shout out. She directed Titan, which was the winner of the Palme d'Or a couple of years ago. And it's interesting because these women are telling stories that go completely outside, like completely breach the expectations of the stories women are even allowed to tell. Because I do think like there is value in women telling stories like Celine Song, or other women that have directed films that deal more with themes of like romance. And that's amazing. But these women are also making like extremely like messed up, gory, nasty cinema.
But it's the same with books. You have books like Bunny and like Mona Awad and stuff, that it's like, this is insane. But not in a bad way, because it makes you think about so much sometimes,
And but this, just to say, sorry, I got kind of lost. But like this, the thing with women directors, like, and the lack of women directors in film history, I think is very structural. Because if you think about it, like, more so than writing a book is a very like solitary experience for the most part. And even that has proven like hard for women throughout history, like Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own, it's like you don't even have like the bare minimum to be able to create as a woman.
And nowadays as
But
well,
when it comes to
so many
still,
men who say, "Oh, I
still.
worked so hard," and then you look back as like, "No, your wife was working hard so that you could work on the thing you wanted to." And that's a lot. I mean, I'm not even going to go into the novels by men that were actually written by their wives or rewritten by their. I mean,
like paintings
right?
or
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
But also that, like, who is carrying on the load of the work and the household and the kids, etc., so that you have the time to do your thing.
Yeah, like, but I think like with movies specifically, like being a director puts you in a position of leadership automatically.
Yeah,
Because more so than writing a book, like making a film is a team effort, and the director essentially functions as like the person who has to steer the ship. And I think like historically women have been conditioned to be exactly the opposite of that
yeah, no,
role.
for sure.
I think that's what explains like the lack of like, you know, and
but
to bring it back to that Devon
not being
girl.
taken serious as well, and men knowing that it's a
Yes.
female director not wanting to consume it, which kind of circles back into the conversation we were having about not wanting to consume media by women.
So, yeah, exactly. Or even like the studios themselves, or yeah, but like I think like even just to get to that director's seat, no matter what happens after,
Yeah.
like that in and of itself, it's already like quite challenging societally. But I even have to say like in all the books and movies I've highlighted on Dutch Oven Girl, I think almost all the books were written by women, but all the movies were directed by men.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't purposeful,
No, of
obviously.
course.
These are like movies I love, and I think there was a lot of like meaningful work done by the women or people that aren't men that were involved. You know, the costume designers, the actresses, what have you. But yeah, this is something that I know, and it's not for lack of trying. It's just like the ratio is so
Exactly.
off.
Yeah.
You know, that naturally, like, and it's funny because like when it comes to like music and books, I feel like it's way easier to like make the ratio the same, but like I feel like women are still like extremely underrepresented in like less and less, as we've seen in like the last years. And like I wouldn't say I'm like, you know, a ride or die for like the Barbie movie, but I think it's like historically it's incredible what
happened.
Greta Gerwig was
Yeah.
able to do, like as a woman director. Like that's amazing, and she will
But
go
also-
down in history for that.
Also, like the whole thing that happened with like Barbieheimer, that is like you don't
Yes.
see that often. And that
No,
doesn't-
and
like
they
independently of like what the movie meant for people and your review of it, of etc. Like just the fact that that happened, that suddenly you had two movies, and one was directed by a woman about women, and the other one was directed by a man about men, and you know what I mean? Like just that was something that you don't usually see, because like you're saying, it's about the ratio as well. Like you can search for it, but if you have 90 men doing something and 10 women doing something like the same thing, you're gonna find a lot more men, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
It's what you have
And
available as well.
yeah, actually, the next Dutch Oven Girl post I'm doing, I'm also highlighting the work of a male director. But after that, I'm going to try
okay.
to do more women directors because I think that's important.
Yeah, I have like one question that because we spoken I think now about you choosing the books and the movies and the meals, right? We chose why you
I
decided to
think
go on
so,
those three
yeah.
things. I would like it's always the question that I ask people who come to the podcast. It's the last question. I
Okay.
need you to recommend us, our listeners, one meal, one book, and one movie. Or actually, let me switch it, because I'm gonna put it as you put in your posts, and it's the hardest question, and I know it is. That's why I leave it for the end. One meal, one movie, one book, and you gotta explain the why for each.
Okay.
Why you're choosing
Justify
them.
your answer.
Yeah, justify it, because I want to know, because that will tell us more about why you're choosing them as like your final recommendation.
So do you ask all your podcast guests to recommend a meal?
No, just no. I ask every time that I have a podcast guest and it's about books, I ask them to recommend me a book, a favorite book. Sometimes they have more than one, which is allowed. It's allowed, but I usually ask for one. But since Dutch Oven Girl is your project and it has these three pillars, I would like one of each.
I'm going to tie it into my next post, which is coming out. Well, I don't know when this podcast is coming out, so maybe this is gonna sound confusing.
That is true, actually. So,
No, okay, scratch that.
at the moment we
I'm
are
going to
making this
recommend-
podcast. No, I'm joking. Carry on.
Disclaimer. Well, I think the post might have gone out then, but this is just what's on my mind. This is the post I'm currently working on. So when you'll see it, you know, when you hear this, you'll know, I guess. And then you can just go back and read what I wrote about it. But a meal I'd recommend. Just maybe for context sake, like this post I'm working on is all about dreams and being in a dream state, being awake, awaking from a dream, what is being in a dream, what isn't. So that's the part where the meal is a bit of a reach, but I decided to recommend a homemade granola recipe because that's something you eat after you wake up.
I thought you were going to bring the Portuguese sonhos.
That would be
We
good
have
too.
a meal that translated it's called dreams. That's why I thought.
And it's really good.
But it basically it's very similar to if you're in the Netherlands, it's very similar to the oliebollen.
Yes,
It's very similar.
indeed.
It's very similar,
Yeah.
but it's also difficult to make. It's not like an easy meal. It's not, and it's
Never
not a meal.
done
It's
it.
just a recipe. It's difficult
But
to make.
no, I haven't. I didn't choose that one, although I could. I chose this homemade granola recipe because I've done it a couple of times already, and unlike sonhos, it's actually really easy to do. And I do feel like, everything's getting so expensive these days that I think it's just easier to do certain things at home. It's healthier and it's more fun, honestly.
Yep.
So basically, what you do is you just take some oats, some just good old oats, and then it's kind of like a make your own adventure sort of recipe, which are my favorites. You can just add into the mix whatever you want, like dried fruits, chocolate bits, different kinds of seeds. Because I eat mostly plant-based, seeds are my friends. They're very important for me to get all the things I need to be strong and healthy. But yeah, you can just add whatever you want. Then you add a bit of oil, and there you can also choose whichever oil you prefer. I like coconut oil. I guess if you want to be like really Portuguese about it, maybe you could use olive oil, although I would not recommend that. That sounds a bit awful. And then you mix everything together. You take out a tray, and then you spread it out. Like you can use like some baking sheets so it just doesn't get glued to the bottom, and then you just spread it out, make sure it's evenly spread so it cooks evenly everywhere, and then you just pop it in the oven for like 20 minutes or something at like 200 Celsius. And yeah, it's really easy and it's really good, and it keeps for like 3 weeks, and it's a great breakfast, and you can say you made your own granola and everyone will think you're very very
Very
special,
fancy cook.
very fancy person, but it's really easy and cheaper. The movie I'm recommending, and also the one I'm connecting to the whole theme of the dreams, is a movie that I actually rewatched this week, and it's Mulholland Drive by David Lynch. David Lynch is one of my favorites, just creatives, point blank, ever. He sadly passed away at the beginning of this year, and to harken back to our conversation, there's something to say about a male director that has been working since the 70s, that when he died, everyone had good things only to say about him.
Yep.
And I actually think, I don't know, like if he ever like expressed this like directly, but I feel he's like a very like feminist director. His movies like often center women, like his main characters are often women, and I don't think they are ever like, sexualized in a way that another male director would. I think like he's like a director who is very into representing like the psyche of people, but I think it's interesting that he chooses to represent the psyche of women characters so many times, and all the while they are like, the fact that they are women is not ignored and contributes to the way they move about in the world, but it doesn't define them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And Mulholland Drive, like, you know, it's a movie about a woman, main character, who is in a lesbian relationship in a way that is very loving, and I don't think like hypersexualized in a way that a lot of other male directors would. But it's also one of these films that something I love about David Lynch is that he's just a true eccentric. I think like a lot of sometimes you watch movies and you read books and you think, yeah, the person behind this, their intention, and that kind of goes back to our conversation about like who you do it for. I think a lot of times it's very transparent that they are doing it for people to watch it and go like, oh my God, what the hell? I don't understand. Like, this is so weird. And I think David Lynch was just genuinely like a weird guy. And everything just feels very sincere and very authentic. And his movies are so strange. Like, this is my second time watching Mulholland Drive, and towards like the third act, I was trying my hardest to understand it, and I still didn't understand it. Like, it's one of those movies you have to go after watch like a YouTube video essay, like Mulholland Drive explained. What does it mean? But I mean, I do think like when it comes to David Lynch's work, it doesn't even matter because he's such an expressionist. I feel like his films are very much to be felt and not understood. And I think that's what gives them this like dreamlike or like nightmare-like quality that I love so much. And yeah, I'm not one to have like big parasocial relationships with celebrities and public figures, but I'm really bummed out. He passed away. He seemed like a lovely man also. And then finally, the book I'm recommending that has a lot to do with dreams and the concept of sleep is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by our dear beloved, or maybe not so beloved, Ottessa Moshfegh.
I've never read her, so
really?
No, never read anything by her, so I don't know. But everybody talks about that book, and I'm not sure I would like it by the theme alone, by my relationship, for example, with Bunny and Boy Parts.
I can definitely. I haven't read Boy Parts. I did read Bunny. I liked it. I didn't like it as much as Ottessa's work. I've read two Ottessa Moshfegh books so far. I never know how to pronounce
I think
it.
Lapfona or something like that. Lapfona or Lapnova? Lapfona, I think. I'm trying to figure out.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think. Lapfona.
It's the one with the sheep
on
the cover. Yeah. But I feel like she, and I think she is very content. She's not as like, I think she's quite a contentious author. I understand a lot of people don't like her, and maybe a lot of people will disagree with me and put her in the other camp. But I do feel like there is a through line between her and David Lynch that I do feel that the quote unquote like disturbing themes that she writes about, it does feel like it comes from a place of someone that has actually something to say about it and is not just like writing something disturbing for the sake of it. And in fact, like, I might be wrong, but I feel like since the success of My Year of Rest and Relaxation, there's been like a lot of like copycat authors trying to write the
weird
like
thing,
unhinged female character thing and filed. But I think this book is worth reading. I understand it's not for everyone, namely because, well, I should say what the book is about. It's about like a woman who decides that she's going to sleep for a full year, and so she's just kind of like going to remove herself from life in this way. But I think a lot of people really struggle with the fact that it's an extremely unlikable character and a very unreliable narrator. Personally, I think if that is well done, it's something I can totally get behind and can be quite interesting. And I think also my experience with the book was quite special because I actually read it almost in one sitting in a night that I couldn't sleep.
Wow.
So it was actually quite
that is
like
an experience.
Meta. Yeah, it was quite like disturbing maybe heightened by like sleep deprivation, and maybe that's why it impacted me so much. But yeah, I think like the through line between both of those things are the nature of like dreams and what dreams can tell us about ourselves, and what does it mean to be awake, what does it mean to be asleep or in a dream or in this sort of like fugue state. And yeah, like, so those would be my two. I think they're not for the faint of heart. Like, Mulholland Drive is like a very long and complicated movie, but I think they're also like, I love being challenged by art in a good way. Like, I don't like being challenged in like, oh, this is very, gratuitously offensive, or just like,
it has to
I
have
don't know,
some
pretentious.
purpose, or at least come from a place that seems honest, not just doing it
Yes,
for
and
the sake of shocking other people, or yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like these two people have this in common. They are able to create art that is very challenging in like a healthy way. So those would be my two recommendations, plus the granola, which is not challenging at all, but it's just something nice to consume after this.
Not everything has to be the challenging, so it's like a little bit of a light thing within the
I can recommend something wholesome next time. I also like wholesome stuff. I love like romantic comedies and yeah.
No, but I mean, that's why I always ask, because I like hearing the process behind the choice. I always like that, why people choose what they choose. We're gonna have Bia here then often. So she's going to come back as a co-host for us to talk about other things in the podcast. It's going to be like a conversation more between us, which I think is going to be fun. Bia, thank you so much for joining me today. And of course,
thank you.
I'll put all of your social media, your Substack, and your Dutch Oven Girl in the show's notes as well, so that people can find it easily. And also on like the books and the movies and stuff that you recommended and you talked about, I'll also add it there, so it's easy to find on Substack. Thank you so much for joining me today, and
Thank you for having me.
I'll see you very soon, of course. You can access today's show's notes on my Substack, which you can find along with all of my social media links at linktree/Carina Pereira. If you have enjoyed this episode, please consider donating to my Ko-fi page, using my Libro.fm referral to purchase an audiobook, or simply leaving a review. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified when the next episode goes live. Talk to you then, and thank you for listening.